Welcome to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. Jimmy is a veteran U.S. Navy SEAL, a former protective officer for the CIA Global Response Staff, founder and CEO of the Able Shepherd Program, a husband and father of 4, and a personal friend of mine. Now here's Jimmy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. First, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor for this episode, Able Nation. If you are a protector entrusted with the safety of your church or school, and you could benefit from financial, material, or scholarship assistance in order to enhance the facility's safety and security, Able Nation can help. So fill out a simple application, send it to Neil at able-nation.org. Todd Brock, my brother, Able Shepherd, 101?
101.
Cool. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So on this one, Todd and I and my brother Randy Culpepper, man, you texted me and you're like, I'll be at your house at, was it 4:45?
4:45. Yeah.
4:45 Saturday morning to head down to Woodland Park to go check out the Stand Courageous Men's Conference in Woodland Park at the Charis Bible College. Is that right?
That's right.
Bible University, Bible College, I think. Gorgeous facility. We got down there in no time flat. You guys already had your coffee. I had coffee on. Already had your hot coffee. We had heard from Charcy Russell. Thanks, Charcy, for putting that out and getting that in our ear. And then we pushed it out for weeks, inviting people to take that stand. As you know, we started the Stand in the Gap initiative, and we're just trying to equip people, organize them, get them better equipped, and you know, to raise that capability. Why? Because the election was just a crazy time. COVID was a crazy time, and I truly believe that this is a way you should live. You know this. You've been a part of this and been part of the groups and getting it all together. So when we learned about Stand Courageous, it's put together by Tony Perkins of the Family Research Council. Also, Jerry Boykin, who is the vice president, who I wouldn't say I know him. Wouldn't be that bold, but I have spoke to him at one of his events before. It was regarding Benghazi. It was regarding whatever. And you've heard me on the podcast quote him saying, I just remember this. I don't remember anything else he said, but I remember this. He goes, mark my words, darker times are coming for us. And where the truth is spoken, where the truth is spoken, people will gather. And that I haven't been able to forget that. When I saw he was a speaker, that got my attention. Tony Perkins, it's another guy that I've touched base with in the past at one of his speaking engagements. And it's like, okay, let's go check it out. Didn't really know what to expect. I think you said the same thing. Did you? There wasn't a whole lot in the advertisement.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, they put some money into it and you can click on it and read it, but I wasn't expecting that. What I found, and I'll let you talk about this as well, what I found was, man, they've put a lot of good work in it. I'm not sure why I forgot about the Family Research Council because I've known about them forever.
Yeah.
Dobson, Perkins, Boykin, these are heavy hitters, people that I've looked to for resources to raise my kids, like bringing up boys, followed by bringing up girls years later. It's gold, like if you're raising a family, and the focus on the family facility. And then Family Research Council, I should have looked at them a long time ago. Like when all this stuff started happening, I should have went back to them. And where we're looking to reconnect, and the resources that they've come up with, they really take out the whole, well, I'm not sure what to do. Somebody should do something. Right. It's in your face calling men out and saying, you're up. Here's the deal. So what was your take on it? What'd you think you were heading to? And then kind of what'd you find? Like a breakdown of what we saw and what you thought about it.
So I kind of thought it would be like a Promise Keepers type of an event, a day long type of Promise Keepers, and it started off that way in the morning. And the morning sessions were very much that way. It's call to action, a call to men's hearts to make things right with God, and then in the breakout sessions, then you started getting into, wait a second, there's some ways that we can get involved as men and get back active. And like you said, Family Research Council, I know that name. Why do I know that name? And then you kind of look into it, and they've been in Washington fighting a fight and have all these resources, have all these phone numbers and email addresses and websites that you can go to try to get involved as a man. And okay, here we go. I know at least can put an action plan together. So that's kind of what I got out of it. I was expecting a little more of, like I said, Promise Keepers and all that stuff, and singing, all the guys singing in a big room, which we did, and then, hey, here we go. Let's get you involved. So it was awesome.
Yeah. So paint the picture. We roll up Charis Bible College. Unbelievable. So You walk in and I'll call it like the stone and timber kind of thing, log cabin.
Like a lodge.
Yeah, but ginormous.
Yeah.
You walk in there and it's a high class joint, the way that my simpleton mind will put it out. And then when you walk into that sanctuary, it's all glass on one wall. It's still got that amazing look to it, that log cabin feel to it. Walk out on the balcony that would probably seat, 100. You're looking at a lake and then pines and then mountaintops.
Yeah,
So it's just breathtaking. It's an amazing facility. Again, paint the picture. Started with worship, went into kind of like a sit down between General Jerry Boykin and Tony Perkins. They kind of set the stage, kind of a keynote speaker style. Then they followed up some speakers. Then 2 hours of breakout sessions. So the ones that we went to, and I was going to write this down, but we went to because I thought they're phenomenal, so I want to mention them. Tim Throckmorton, how men can make an impact, followed by Dr. Mark Harris, the biblical response to America's unfolding crisis. And they had several of them. So, Still in the Game, Lessons from the NFL, but like all these amazing breakout sessions. Then you come back, we had a lunch, before the breakout sessions, which by the way was the best box lunch I've ever had in my life. I was like, I'm trying to do the paleo. BK, I forgot to mention, we got BK in the house. Is 051? Yeah, 051. So BK's behind the scenes again. But BK, I was expecting, and nothing against, man, we love the Lord's chicken. Nothing against Chick-fil-A. I get it. But I was expecting a chicken sandwich and a couple, like the 7 chips that come in the bag with a bunch of air. That kind of thing. What do they call them? Waffle chips or something. And a pickle and like a cookie, right? This thing was by Honey Baked Ham.
Oh, it was awesome.
And it's the best sandwich I've ever had in my life. Sorry, Rachel. And it was what else was in there? Potato salad. This broccoli salad that couldn't have been more full, followed by a cookie. I didn't even know what else was in
and the sandwich wasn't chintzy. It was like
it's like a big
10 ounces of ham and then
turkey.
Bacon on the top.
And then turkey. Was turkey on that thing?
Turkey, maybe,
Crazy.
Turkey. I just had bacon and ham. I'm like, that's awesome.
So, thanks for bringing the Jesus. Thanks for bringing the message. But, man, you nailed it on the box lunch, too.
And a Mountain Dew on top.
I know, right? So that was a cheat day for the paleo thing that me and Parker tried out. Okay, so back to this is I want to throw out a couple takeaways that I got from it because right off the bat, it blew my socks off when, man, help me out. It was Bishop, not pastor. I was going to say pastor. Bishop Larry Jackson. I think that's right. But he knocks it out, man. And when he was talking about, he wasn't pulling any punches, and this is the guys. And it was funny because we were just laughing about this before we started. He's like, hey, with the Anglo brothers, you can nod your head. I need to hear you. He's like, come on, can I get an amen? So he gets everybody loosened up and talking and unapologetically saying, daddy was home. Like my kids haven't had, as a black man, I have not had any of my kids have babies out of wedlock. I'm sorry, I didn't. Did you hear me? I said, and then everybody's like, oh, we don't really talk about that. He went there. And then he went there, and it was like, amen. And he's like, not looking to shame anybody, but why? Because daddy was home. Because I'm there, and he goes, and this really hit me because I'm living this right now. He goes, when my daughters had their first menstrual cycle, he's like, hey, baby's like, hey, so-and-so had their period. He's like, time for dinner. And he's like, time for dinner means I take my daughter out to dinner. I explain that she's now a woman. I put a ring on her finger and say, inappropriate, nothing, inappropriate. He's like, daddy's your boyfriend. You don't cheat on that. He's like, I want this ring back when a man marries you and puts a ring on your finger. Yeah. And I'm like, ooh, that's big. Gold. Yeah. So I told Rachel, I came home and I said, Rachel, I want to take Rebecca out to a dinner. I want to get her to spend some money on a ring and slip it on her finger. And then when she outgrows that one, I'll replace it. And then when she outgrows that one, I'll replace it. And the next one's replaced by her husband. And I go, I want all of them back because then it's going to go to Sarah. Then it's going to go to Eden. I'm going to have a pocket full of rings one day that all my girls wore. That's a big deal of saying, listen, go be you and be true to you and all that stuff. But the clowns need not apply. Like this is a serious thing. And when somebody puts a ring on that finger, you're going to give me this one back. And it goes on your sister's finger next. Yeah. That's a powerful thing. So that was amazing. And then he was talking about that. He's like, hey, you are now a woman and you could bring a baby into this house and I'm not raising another man's babies. Right. So then you need to make sure that you're picking the right person. And then if you're worth, if they're worth your time, they'll put a ring on your finger and make a commitment to you. Yeah. And I'm like, wow. That
was powerful.
That's good stuff.
I'm glad
man.
I didn't have daughters in that.
Yeah. I'm like, we just started and I'm ready. I was rock and roll.
That was huge.
And then followed up by, all the other speakers, but that was one that just jumped out and punched me in the face. And I'm like, you're going shopping when you get home. You're going to go ring shopping, and you're going to go out and and not chintz it up on a dinner with your daughter.
I liked it too, and this is just me. I picked up on this. He's like, you can't fix what's going on in the black community in that regard, but he's like, you can pray for us. I'm like, I appreciated hearing that.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
just the fact that, you know, like we need to be involved in praying and supporting and trying to help. You know, and I just appreciated his frankness on that.
And I think that's awesome that they didn't hold back on the power of prayer. That's usually where people stop. Well, I'll pray for them. That's where they started.
Yeah.
The bare minimum is pray.
Right. Yeah.
And then they're like, now get off your butt and get on it. You know, and then, and again, no pulling punches and no, well, you know, women this and women that. It's like nothing to take away from them. I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
The guys in this room, you can't squirm sideways and look at your wife.
Yeah.
This is you.
When they made several references too about, you know, what's going on in Washington, and it's certain women politicians, their voices are being heard louder, and like, where's the men? And that's what they were tying into that. Like the men need to be heard, and like that. That's impactful.
Yeah.
You know, be heard in politics, in your church. You know, like we have to stand up and lead our families. You know?
Yeah, Molina was his last name, and he was saying, he said something to the effect of, if your wife is saying amen louder than you in church,
there's a problem.
Like, who's the leader of this family?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I personally have seen that a lot with pastors, with men looking over at their wife. Honey, what do we think about that? It doesn't. You know that.
Or you see the wife raising her hand in church, but the husband's like a stone.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe depending on where he's at spiritually, but if he needs to be the spiritual leader of that house, you know, he needs to be vulnerable.
Well, the statistics they showed that if the father doesn't go to church, so if the wife pleading for her family drags them to church and dad stays home, the significance of those children ever going to church on their own drops if dad doesn't go.
I think it was 20%.
I thought it was 30.
Yeah.
Even if they don't go, even if it's if mom stays home, that doesn't even affect. If dad doesn't go, they see that.
It's a big deal.
So that was a
and
big deal.
once he gets engaged, just by going, it was a massive impact on that. And then if he's engaged, it impacts the family larger. And you just like I think Randy sent me. I wasn't quick enough on the phone, but he sent me the screenshot of that because that was a powerful statement. So
yeah, fantastic. So we go into the breakout sessions, we go in there, and they start talking about community impact teams. So, you know, obviously we got the conference workbook that walks through and talks about, and I love this because they broke it down in such an easy way it just translated with everything that we've done in the Stand in the Gap initiative, but didn't have the resources to push it across that. Like right now, they've got an app, they've got a website, they've got updates with intelligence coming from out of DC saying these are the top 3 things that you need to. And we just finished this, so I haven't even gotten into all of this other than following up with General Boykin's assistant because we were supposed to have a meeting. They invited me to a dinner the night before. I was teaching, I couldn't do it, so now we're going to do a Zoom call with General Jerry Boykin to say, man, you got a crew in Denver that's ready to rock and roll. Let's do this. Let's get in it. And how can we support and get involved? So man as a provider, man as a battle buddy, man as an instructor, man as a defender, and man as a chaplain. So that's where they came and spoke to these points and brought up some amazing points. Another one, I want to tie this back in not only to the Stand the Gap initiative, but also to my Monday night group has just finished Constitution Alive. So when we went out and did the Stand in the Gap initiative, we got donations of these when we mentioned them. They're so good that we had somebody donate and buy several copies of these. These are big banks of DVD sets. And this is why I think it's important. This could be paranoid. I don't really care. But anything can be blocked and restricted and censored and whatever. But if you own it, if it's a DVD set, first you got to go and find a DVD player, right? They're probably $50 now on Amazon or cheaper. To be able to find that, you can play it whenever you want forever, right? So we got donated these, we bought some, we got all of these, and then we dispersed them. It's like, who would teach this class? And then people raised their hand, we gave them to them. Go and do it, whatever. Amazing. And they're saying that, you know, read the Constitution, study the Constitution, go teach the Constitution. Then you got to assert your rights. You've got to know your rights. You've got to assert your rights or you lose them.
Right.
What that study pointed out was that we've got the bones of the Constitution. There's nothing wrong with it. It's amazing. We're just not doing it.
Yeah.
But one of the things they talked about that tied both of those in was, I think it was Throckmorton talking about running a poll and saying, it was Green, so whatever his name is, that did the Constitution Alive. The common answer he hears is from doing it for my grandchildren. And a question popped into my head. Why aren't they saying children? Now, this is why. I think we stay busy, and I'm in this right now. You're trying to raise a family and bring in money and do all this and save, and these are the working years, right? It's kind of natural. But then when people later, they're retired, they're starting to look more at politics, get more involved, then they realize, oh my, what's happening? I didn't realize the Constitution was being violated like this. Right. I didn't realize our rights were getting yanked away from us and all that. And it's great that the grandpas are doing it. Why aren't the dads doing it? Yeah. Like that time's over. Like the time for I was too busy, man, we're losing. And they pointed out the conference, if a guy dropped right here, grabbed his chest, turned pale and fell on the floor, guys would be fighting to get in there and do it. Our nation's doing that right now, yet we sit here, you know.
So that was into Netflix.
It was huge, and not being educated on this stuff. So I think that's huge to where it's great that the grandparents are doing it. Quite frankly, it was a good attendance, but it wasn't packed to the gills. Yeah. That should have been standing room only. Yeah. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of seats empty.
Yeah. And there should be 10 more of them this year. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they are doing them more and more. So that's where we're going to try to figure out where we fit into where can we host one? Can we bring them here? Can we add? Can we spread the word? Can we spend resources getting the word out and then making sure that more people are doing this? They're gathering an army, which is awesome of amazing men and women finding out what they can do. And we kind of thumb through it. Stuff I didn't think about. If you don't know what you can do, that is just, you're done. Because they've done it for you. Anything that could possibly be done, unless you just flat out don't want to do anything, then you don't have an excuse. So I'll go through a couple of these because I grabbed, they're like, hey, if you want any information, we've collected it. It's free.
It's all free.
Take it, spend it, whatever. Yeah. We'll come out and teach you how to do it. But this is just a few. The best pro-life arguments for secular audiences. A Parent's Guide to the Transgender Movement in Education. Why Christians Should Seek to Influence Government for Good. Biblical Principles for Political Engagement. Biblical Principles for Pro-Life Agenda. Biblical Principles for Religious Liberty. Biblical Principles for Human Sexuality. They go through these arenas and saying like this, and I truly believe this. These are all connected. I was this morning with Rachel. Every week we sat down and we look at the Dave Ramsey program and we watch a video and we talk about it. We've already done it. Like we did this years ago. I cut up my credit cards, haven't had a personal credit card forever. But we're in it again because you need to tighten it up and get back on track, right? We kind of got loose. We were what they call Dave-ish. And that guy, he's, you know me, so even when it bothered me when Boykin and Perkins are sitting there ripping on each other. And I get it. People say, well, that's what the military does. Incorrectly. I agree. Yeah. They do it, but I don't think it's helpful. I think it's destructive. And I'm not going to pick on them. You can do whatever you want. Right. But, it loses points with me a little bit. It's inappropriate. Like, I don't think it's appropriate because I'm like, you guys are just whatever. Because I could step in and say stuff about SEALs and you both got to sit down. Yeah. I'm just kidding. Anyway, so that's the kind of thing. It's like, why even go there when we're on the same team, right? Yeah. If you don't educate yourself on these kind of things, then you're not going to know, what to say in those conversations. So you say nothing. Yeah. And I don't know about that. It's not a book. It's a pamphlet. So if you read that and then get in it, and then one of these is going to grab your attention. Like right now, pro-life is a big thing. We've got our July 10th event coming up, the Family Mountain Adventure. It's designed to get families together and go drive in those mountains with a bunch of good people and raise money to save babies. That's the deal. Yeah. Now, I'll be amazing, just very transparent. On the business meetings, we say, hey, we've had people kind of leave when we send out our newsletter, we've had people discontinue when you mention pro-life. I'm like, there it is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They can go if they want, and you can think whatever you want about it, but I can't stop putting that stuff out. No. And if people are like, well, I don't agree with you, so I'm going to go. You can go. Yeah. We're past that. I believe that we're past that. It's unfortunate, but that's okay. You may leave, and you know where to find us. So, like I said, unfortunate, but we have to be clear, and that's what I told them. Right now in this season, with our marketing, with everything, we're like, we must be more clear. We must be very definitive. Like, what are we doing? Crystal clear on what we expect when we send an invoice. Crystal clear on when we want a scope of work done on some kind of, we send out these invoices or whatever, contracts rather. And then on this one, we just got to be really clear on what we stand for. And people are going to leave, and that's okay. It's got to be that way.
But people will come too. I mean, people that know that Like you look at certain churches, you follow Jack Hibbs, I follow Jack Hibbs. They were truth speakers throughout
Amen.
this whole COVID thing. And so their church grew, and they're like 200% in their youth group. So they were doing the right things, and they were blessed for it. And I think, the Able Shepherd program, the Able Nation will be blessed if we stand firm in our beliefs and stand tall on those things. God will honor that. And like for me, like the pro-life thing's huge. I have 2 adopted boys. I'll have that discussion with you any day. My sister's adopted, so I've seen the beauty of that. I've seen my cousin she got pregnant her first year, or freshman year in college, and because of us, she told us later, she put that baby up for adoption. She stayed in touch. She has a great relationship with that family, but because of our witness, and I'm like, that gets me choked up. I'm like, I had that kind of impact on my cousin. Her mom had an abortion because she got pregnant early, and that is hard on my aunt to deal with. She still because she made a different choice that her daughter made, and that's hard for her to. But now she's like, what an amazing choice that her daughter made. So, there's positives in that, and God honors that. So.
In the Christian community, if they're doing it correctly, they're saying exactly that. Like, if you've done this, we're not looking to shame anybody.
Nope.
We love you.
Yeah.
Don't agree with the decision you made. And most of the people, I think, if they're honest, that made that decision, they don't agree with it either. It's just already done, right? So please don't impose that on my daughter. Yeah. Like if I find out that somebody assisted my daughter in scarring her for the rest of her life, thinking they were helping her, I'm not going to have a sense of humor about that. Yeah. You know what I mean? That bothers me, on a big level. So I think that people, when they stand up and say that, and for me, I love the way Jack Hibbs said it. He's like, you have to be ready to empty your church in order to fill it.
Yeah.
And he did. People walked out the door, and then thousands of people walked in the door. Yeah. Like when they put, what church are you affiliated with? I put Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills on my sheet because that's the one that I'm really drawing that from. That's where my ties go right now. That's guy's on fire, and I'm like, we said that. Yeah. This guy's going to jail, and we're going to get him out. Yeah. If I got to raise money and do a fundraiser to get Jack Hibbs out of jail, okay, here we go, all in. And then it was cool to find out when they talked about Battle Buddies, talking about it for accountability. I thought it was Jerry Boykin, but you think it's Perkins.
Tony Perkins and Jack Hibbs.
I'm like, that's cool. This is not an accident. This is coming together. I think God's calling people together to say, guys, how long are you? Because I forget who said it, but he was talking about woman. I think it might have been Melina again. Woman, like man with a womb. That's like the safest place you could put a baby to grow it is in a woman's womb.
Right.
Why? Because she'll protect it.
Right.
And men will protect her, especially a pregnant woman. Yeah. That is getting it flipped on its ear because guys like, I think I'll be a woman. Like, no, this is a sacred thing we're talking about. This was a safe place. And not only are women not protecting their wombs, men are actually going in and ripping babies out of the womb. So they're not like, that's our thing. It's like, where are you? Like, why aren't you protecting women in crisis that are manipulated to think this is a good idea? Then they pay for it for the rest of their lives. Yeah. Not to mention you murder a human being. Yeah. It's like, it's rough stuff, but I don't think it's I think we're beyond that whole saying it's not a man's thing. It is. It absolutely. It's always a man's thing to protect a woman. Yeah. I love when Christian, because we were sitting there and I was having this conversation a little bit with Rachel talking about exactly that term about the protecting a woman's womb, safest place, whatever. And I got a sense Christian kind of looked over. He's 7, so he just looked over because he heard something about men should protect women. And I see him look back at me, and I go, men might not protect women nowadays, but I know where I can find one. He looks over and he goes, me. And I go, that's right. That's awesome. And it's just cool that that's in him, and I'll never take that out. Like, that's exactly right.
Absolutely.
So it's a good thing that right now, and I tell him this all the time, your sisters protect you. They care for you. Someday you're going to be stronger than all of us, and you're going to protect us all. Man, he's stronger than dad. You're going to be faster, stronger, all that. Yeah. We're going to need you to protect all of us. And man, he just... Like tomorrow, I'm like, man, it's gonna be a minute. It's gonna be a minute because you're still this tall, but it's coming. So, and I tell him, I use it because at Marvel, and he understands, like he sees the superhero stuff and all these shows, and I call them your powers. You got to use your powers for good. Yeah. So I got to be hard on you a little bit because I got to understand you can't mess that up. Yeah. You got to make sure you could hurt somebody, and you're gonna be strong as you're gonna get. You could actually kill somebody. Yeah. So I need to make sure that you know how to use your powers for good. That's awesome. He's like, okay. That's cool. Man, good stuff.
That's awesome stuff.
So the other thing is that while we're in there with Tim Throckmorton, he talked about these community impact teams. So he said, hey, give us your information. We'll follow up with you. And then you can take one of these books, and I've thumbed through it just a little bit. And it talks about making these community impact teams. So get ready if you're in the Denver area and you're connected to us. I said, I want to start one of these community impact teams. I threw out an invitation to one of the local pastors, said, if you want to collaborate on this, then just say the word, but we're doing it anyway. So stuff like develop a statement of a mission purpose, organize a membership, develop a budget, set community impact center. Some of it starts some basic projects. We've already been doing this.
Yeah.
I've been down with you to the soup kitchen, to help feed and all that stuff. The kitchen down in Denver,
Denver Rescue. Yeah.
Denver Rescue. We're doing the fundraiser. We a couple years ago we rented out a theater and showed a pro-life movie, just stuff like that. But I love the fact that they've had the resources, spent the time, and got this thing organized. So I want to dive into the app.
Yeah, and anything you want to do, like if anything that you have a passion for or want to work on is be a foster parent, start a Bible study group, ask the store to get rid of pornography. Get on the school board. I mean, they walk you through, here's what to do, here's organizations that you can tie into that will help you. And you're like, this is already kind of like the game plan is put together for you, or at least the pre-game plan of what to do. So, I mean, it's awesome that they provide this resource. So it's cool.
Starting those things, I think there's so many men right now, and I've mentioned to you about getting invited to speak at a group, and I wasn't even sure what I was walking into, and the garage door was half open, and I go under, and everybody's sitting around with their Bibles, and they're pouring beers, because it's like a kegerator, and it's got beers and Bibles, and they're just hanging out, and everybody pours a beer, and they're responsible about it, but then they just dive into the Bible. And I was the guest speaker and talked to them. They go, you want to stay? I'm like, let me grab my Bible. Went to the truck, came back, and sat there.
I met him later on at a school board thing, and he was all fired up about it. So
great guys. And I think there's pockets of men all over the country that are feeling that calling in their chest, saying, do more.
Yep.
I'm knocking on your chest right now.
Yeah.
You need to step up and find that thing.
Yeah.
So I think that they've come a long way with that. And even so I started talking about and I went off on a tangent when I was talking about the Dave Ramsey thing with Rachel and I. But I think that's tied into it.
Yeah.
Like getting your finances in order.
Absolutely.
If the credit card companies and all this stuff, if the numbers are true about how many people are living paycheck to paycheck, man, wars need to be funded. And if you're squared away with your finances, you're going to put a dent in this thing. You know what I mean? Because why? Because you've got the time, the resources to pull away and to commit to some of this. Yeah. To start a group, to teach the Constitution, to go out and learn. And it's always better. We've said this many times. It's always better with other dudes. So if you start a community, we even talked about coming in, in the future, so many guys want to get their pilot's license. Let's do that as a group. Do ground school as a group. It's fun. Yeah. Let's, some beers, burgers, whatever, play the tapes and do the thing, and then go flying together.
Yeah.
Onesies, twosies. Everybody I know wants to be a pilot.
Yeah.
Someday.
Absolutely.
Nobody's doing it, but they all want to.
Yeah.
I mean, we got some pilots in the group, but that would be a riot to do with other people. This is so much more purpose of that because it's saving our country.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, talk about it all day long, or you can get after it.
Child exploitation. I'm like, you hear that on the news all the time, and so many men are like, I want to stop that, and they have like groups that you can tie into right now and help with that. And like that's massive because that's our kids being stolen and their innocence being stolen, by just weirdos. So
my buddy Ken Kelly this morning, he's dropping off his daughter because my daughter watches his daughter and all that stuff, and he's on the front lines of that, developing software. He's like, I want to see this ended in our time. Like literally, people try to do it. Software finds pornography. They do this thing. They hunt on these dudes and they put them in jail. And he was talking to me, explaining to me about there's so many big organizations that could really cripple all of that. They simply won't. Like, how easy it would be for Visa to say, we're not going to process it, but it gets ID'd as child porn.
Yeah.
Like, any of that stuff, anything where a child is abused, they could just not process the thing, gets identified because the software can do it, and they'll pay it, but they don't. It's too much money.
Too much money.
That is evil.
That is
it's
so wrong.
Insane. Amazon. Amazon will pull, who was it that got pulled, help me out, BK, from the Amazon servers, and they wouldn't do it. It was, starts with a P. It was the Parlor.
Yeah.
Right? So Amazon Services stops doing that, but they won't do it for child pornography.
Yeah.
Child pornography.
Yeah.
And I get it, pornography, that's bad. Yeah. Child pornography? Right. Really? That's illegal, it's immoral, it's evil, it's all that stuff. You pull the plug on it, you cripple the industry.
Absolutely.
But you don't.
Yeah.
Man, that
too much money.
Makes me crazy, right?
Yeah.
So, any other big takeaways that jumped out at you? Thinking obviously Jerry Boykin, Tim Perkins, really all of them. But any other, I didn't bring my notes, but actually I did in some of these, and then I took some more at the Bible study. But anything else that jumps at you right now?
No, I just think for me, I've talked about getting involved with the school board, and you and I talked about the Bible study. You met that guy in the garage, and I'm like, well, why don't we start more of those garage Bible studies like that? Because there are guys who want that kind of, they don't want to go to a church. They don't want to do another Zoom meeting. So I'm not a beer guy, but you bring the beer, we'll have the Bible study in my garage. We need to do more of that. So just kind of lit the fire for me on those things to be more engaged. And I'm sorry to my pastor in advance, but you're probably going to get a copy of this from my church.
I know that we talked about that, and they talked about it. It's like, and I get it.
Church is in crisis.
They are in crisis, and one of the guys even said, they haven't been taught to deal with this stuff, and I get it. So you go in there, and I call them any given Sunday messages. You're not saying anything wrong,
no.
But it's like for a time such as this.
Right.
It's got to be applicable to right now. And if the wolves are at the door, let's talk about wolves. Right. And you don't do it. Yeah. They're like, hey, Jesus is good. I get it. I'm a Christian guy. Yeah. What are we doing about this? Yeah. They're like, well, if you're not saved, I'm saved. Let's do that. Let's get to action. They're like, and there are people in there that need to receive that. So there should be an altar call every single time. I get it. Yeah. But now it's time to form up, and I believe that Jesus is calling people, and these are all men of God. So they're not skipping that. Yeah. But you could easily say, well, what's important, and then kick it in neutral and sail through the rest of your life with a house nicer than mine and do the thing. I get it.
Yeah. But Jack Hibbs talks about it all the time. It's like, like churches don't want to be involved in politics. And he's like, Jesus was involved in politics. Like our church has got to be involved in politics if we're going to save the republic, and we're going to save, stop child pornography, stop child exploitation. Men have to get involved. Churches have to get involved. They have to be front and center in that. Yeah. They have to be front and center in the fight. You have to be willing to go to the mat and get arrested or whatever to put an end to that and let our voice be heard. Otherwise, we do our kids and our grandkids and great grandkids a disservice because we're not turning over a better America, a better future for them. So
amen. Yeah. I'm doing some writing right now, and I'm talking. It dawned on me. I was listening to a song that kind of grabbed me, and I was talking about, the safety you can find being around a dangerous man. That intrigued me. That statement to the point where we'll say this regularly to one another: "Stay safe, stay dangerous." That kind of thing. But there's a song. Do you know it, BK? It's by Ashley McBride. Bible in a 44. I'll send it to you as soon as we're done. Right. Yeah. But it's a powerful song because she's talking about her dad. She's singing about her dad. Said he carried a Bible in a 44, and that's in the chorus. But something about taught me how to hunt and how to love the Lord. And one of the lyrics talks about the last one off if a ship went down. The kind of man it feels good to be around. Yeah. I started thinking about that. It's fun to say, but the last one off if a ship went down. Scour the horizon, because I think about my grandpa. I think about my dad, think about all that. Now, in the Able Shepherd program, it's a little bit of an anomaly, so I could find more guys. But if you scour the horizon of the world, are you seeing that? Yeah. Or is it more like, hey, man, I'm taking my family, we're taking a boat, whatever. But really, it's like, hey, women and children first. I'm seeing more of the claw your way to the top mentality, and the rest be damned. And it's not good. Yeah. But that whole thing, and everybody likes to think they're that, and I'm the same way. I like to think that. But if you're not living your life like that, I don't know that that's what you're projecting. Right. People saying, "Oh, that guy would stab you in the face to get in a boat over that little kid." Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I'm just being honest. I'm seeing a lot of that. Yeah. People checking boxes and then losing their definition of what men. And one of the guys wrote a book, and I ended up buying it because I'm very intrigued by it. I wasn't as drawn to like some of the things he was saying, but it was called. It's sitting over there. What's that thing called? What is a man?
I don't have my glasses.
I think you're like, bro, that's over 10 feet, and I can't see. It's called "What Is a Man" by Joaquin Molina. Yeah, and I'm very intrigued by it because I'm writing a similar book. I'm like, what does he say it is? Yeah. And the reason is because I've seen a lot of bad definitions of that, and they were destructive. Yeah. Like in my lifetime, they were destructive because I thought that was right and it wasn't. Yeah. And now I know enough, and I've got enough confidence to say that was wrong. Yeah. That was not a good definition. And not like my dad sit me down and said that, because I'm not talking about him, and I'm talking about my grandfather. They did a great job. The values that I took from them. I'm talking about Navy SEALs. I'm talking about the world. I'm talking about people that admired Navy SEALs, and they were shooting for something that I don't ever care to be.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put that on paper at some point. So we'll see how it goes. But as far as man as a provider, awesome. The battle buddy thing, meaning the accountability part, powerful.
Yeah.
Like having somebody that you can no kidding call. I've got several. One of them is the 86er. I can call him and talk about stuff. Jason Campbell up in Montana, and we have good conversations. It's always funny because we just like to be funny around each other, but it's deep stuff. We just hit it lightly, but then later I'm like, that was good stuff. And he'll shoot me straight.
Yeah.
You know, man, as an instructor, obviously we've said you're a teacher, you're a leader. You're teaching people right and wrong, you're leading them to heaven or hell. Now, whether they follow you, that's up to them,
right.
But you are putting it out so you can't pretend you're not.
Yeah.
You know, everything you say is powerful, or it should have content and not a garbage conversation. Man, as a defender, that goes without saying, you know, you're the person that would step in harm's way for a woman, a child, an innocent person. Would you defend innocence? And I saw it in one of these books about decency. It might have been just a definition. I think it was the community impact thing. There's a war on decency right now. Yeah. We've said that many times, and they hit it head on. So in the Constitution study last night, it talked about that. You don't break the Constitution. You don't help the Constitution by breaking it.
Right.
And you don't break the law. You don't do that. You work hard to fix it. And I underlined work hard.
Yeah.
That's where you lose people.
Right.
They're like, hey, I want to be mad and grab my AR and go yell at stuff. Okay, well, you're
work.
going to go to jail and you're going to be marked as an idiot, right?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Do you want to work hard and like these guys are saying, go identify good men to run for office, then educate them and financially support them? Yeah. It sounds like work. I want it right now.
Yeah.
Okay, well
it's
then
work.
You're not part of the solution.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. Yeah. So that was huge. And then as chaplain, and I think that can't be missed. And again, if you're a Christ follower and you try to leave that part out, now you're not genuine.
Yeah.
Now you lose credibility. Or you stick with the vanilla any given Sunday messages when there's literally people getting assaulted and even killed on the street. I don't believe we're called to do that. Yeah, no. So it's time to kick it up a notch. Yep. So yeah, as you think about your how you're going to close out with a very impactful, intelligent statement, I'm going to just
awesome.
That's what I hit them up with that. Last thing, rock me, BK. Is like, come on, man. No, more to come on the community impact teams, because we are going to form one up and get one going here. I do plan on having probably Tim Throckmorton fly out here and do a class on this. So there will be invites to that. I did just see on the website. I'm sorry, on the app that you can host an event. So if we can bring them closer up here, not Woodland Park, but closer to Denver, and find a facility, then we're more than willing to do that. And then I do want to find, because I just closed my computer timed out, there is a way in this book. I wanted to make sure we said this several times, so I'll get it in at least a couple times, on how to get connected.
Well, the app and
the app, it was 67742, if memory serves, and because I just looked at it a minute ago. And you text MEN, MEN, to 67742. You go to standcourageous.com, and then you download the app. And I think they call it the Stand Firm app, but if you type in Stand Courageous on your phone, did you find it?
Yeah, it's 67742.
67742. Text the word MEN.
Yep.
That'll get you. And I'm protective of my texts, and my email is a stinking mess. This is worth it. So dump something else off and put that one on there. So you're going to get the updates on your phone. I know that's a little bit personal, but get them and check it out. And you can opt out of that later if you get connected to the website, because they said the same thing we talked about with our website. They can shut all these other things down, but it's harder to shut down a website. So if you have that conduit into those updates for the intel from DC, if you can go on there and get an account, then you can connect with them and you can shut it off.
Yeah, and if there's anything that's like burning a hole in your heart, again, like child pornography or exploitation of children or fostering or adopting or any of those things like that. I mean, there's just pages of notes in here how to get involved and steps to get involved, and they've done all the homework for you to make it. I don't want to say it's going to be easy, but they've taken that first step for you. So I think it's just an opportunity. If God's laid something on your heart, if you're feeling that, hearing that, there's a reason that you're feeling that and hearing that, and if you've heard it more than once, or it comes up in a conversation, God's talking to you. So there's ways to get involved to make it that first step a little easier, at least, for sure.
Awesome. So we'll go ahead and wrap up. I did find it finally. Thing timed off, so I didn't bring it back up while you were talking. So text men to 67742. The website's standcourageous.com. The app is the Stand Courageous app. So just type it in there, and they call it the Stand Firm app. But through that, you can literally watch, listen, gather, read. So you can go on there and read things. You can gather up your intelligence stuff. You can listen via like a podcast, and then they have a bunch of videos on there. I saw Boykin and Perkins talking like out of a campfire or something like that, and then there's updates coming out of DC. So it's a great tool. This is kind of the gist of what I want to put out there, is that many, many times in the past several months, I've heard people saying, if someone would just step up, I'd support them. If you haven't found that person, it's you. Like literally, it's time. It's time right now to dig into something. And if you can no longer pretend that you don't know what to do, because it's right here. It's all free. So to dig into this stuff, if you don't do it, we lose. Period. Yeah. So our community is going to dive into this thing, and we're going to spearhead it. Stand by for more information and get after it. At least hit that website up, standcourageous.com, and learn more. So let's see. We'll go ahead and do our sign off. Check this stuff out. Support these guys. So that final message.
The final message. Oh wow.
Okay, get ready. Let's take a little sip of that.
I already did that. Again, I think just to kind of caveat where kind of log on where Jimmy's at. It's just, man, if something's on your heart, something's in your mind, it's been there, jump in and get involved. Don't wait for somebody else to do it. Like critical race theory or whatever, if that's eating at you, jump in, because we've got to lead or we're going to lose our kids. We're going to lose our grandkids, and it's just too important for the future. So
yeah. Absolutely. And I think that's a huge point, that is, don't try to copy somebody else because they're not you. Like when you spearheaded the Denver rescue thing, you're like, hey man, I feel like I'm supposed to do this. Yeah. And I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, we need to get back to that too.
Yeah. So things like that are speaking to you, they're speaking to you. Yeah. So take that. The thing that's in you, that's burning in you, and run with it.
You said this on the way up. Like you've said this several times. Your kids are watching you. They're recording everything you do. Your grandkids are recording everything you do. And so we have to be involved. That's how our kids learn. That's one of the reasons I wanted to be around work with the rescue mission, is like my boys need to see outside of church that I'm involved in my community, involved in other things. They need to understand that because that's how they get involved in things that they're passionate about. And they have to see us leading. If they see us sitting in front of the TV complaining and moaning and not doing anything, then they take no action in their own lives, or they get tied into the wrong things and they get indoctrinated into something that's counter to what we want them to learn. And now we're fighting with them on something instead of leading them. So and not knowing what they, if you at some point, we call it leap forward, look back. So if you leap forward and look back and say, like, remember when we lost the greatest nation that was on the planet? What was your dad doing? He was on the couch a lot. Like, I'm not being that guy. Like, he was up busting his. Now I've made an effort in the past few years to spend more time with my family than, to get out of work. It's part of my definitions of success, is that the business is growing, but I'm also home more than I've ever been. I tell my staff that. Thank you guys for letting me be, in my mind, successful, meaning I've seen my kids more this year than I've seen them every year, in a year, that kind of thing. But when we work hard, and we don't stop, and we keep going, and they see that. And I know they see it because I hear the things they say, and it comes from this community. And it's awesome. So don't miss that. So anyways, thanks a lot, guys. We're going to wrap it up. Thank you, Todd, for joining us, brother. Absolutely.
That was good. Thanks for driving.
Yeah, absolutely.
4:45.
Sorry, I'm glad I didn't scare you. So.
I know. It's like one eye open going, we're heading south, right?
It's supposed to be an hour, 20-minute drive. I think we made it in an hour. So
anyway. He doesn't. He's not shy behind the wheel. Okay, so again, guys, sign off. So on Facebook, follow me personally on my personal site is Jimmy Graham, and then look for Able Shepherd. That's on Facebook, on podcast. For the podcast, protectorculture.com. There's the audio version wherever you get your audio podcast, and then there's the video you can actually go on, because BK dresses them up real nice, and then throws on the videos. Perry Saul way is to listen and watch. So first listen, then go on and watch. He says it's brand new, and it's the way to do it. The website's ableshepherd.com to get trained up to protect your family and yourself, and the community movement that we've started was standinthegapinitiative.com. Again, prayerfully consider making a financial contribution to our sponsor for this episode at able-nation.org. Tell Neil Jimmy said hello. So he just got back in town, by the way. So catching up with him next week. So that's it, guys. So that's it for this one. As we always say, God bless each and every one of you. Take care of one another.